My Bigfoot encounter was a direct result of me just being a menace. So my parents divorced. During the summertime, I would have to stay with my dad in North Texas. Well, back then, I was still reeling from the divorce, and looking back on it, I treated my dad like shit, even though he was the one that got the short end of the stick when it came to the divorce. Anyway, he starts dating this woman, and like I said, I'm being a menace to her, rude, mean, acting all entitled. Looking back on it now as an adult, understanding the stresses of life, I realize how fucked up I was behaving. Anyway, it gets to the point where my dad has had enough of me acting a fool and tells me that I have to walk everywhere I need to go for the rest of the summer. Understand, my dad worked all day long, his girlfriend was a homemaker, so she was home all day, and the woman tried her best, she really did. She offered me rides even when my dad told her not to. But my father insisted that until my behavior changed, I had no choice but to walk everywhere I was supposed to go. Now, all of this goes down right around the time where baseball season starts. So I find myself having to walk to and from baseball practice. Well, one night practice ends late and it's a 2-mile walk home if I take the roadway which curves around the park and back into our neighborhood. But if I cut through the woods, it's less than a mile. And during the daytime when I was headed to practice, I would always cut through the woods. So I figured I'll give it a try cutting through these woods at night. And this is where you need to cue the scary music. Because when I tell you the woods look different at night, it's a whole nother world in there at night. So I'm walking along. The light from the playground is at my back, projecting shadows all around me from the trees. It's a bit scary, but not an environment where I couldn't manage my fear. Well, at least for the first 5 minutes, it wasn't. Once I get deep enough into the woods, past where the lights cast shadows, into true darkness, my eyes adjust and it's a whole nother story. That's when I hear something pacing me. When I stepped, it stepped. When I stopped, it stopped. You know how when you're afraid and you start talking out loud, it makes you feel better? I'm like, listen, whoever's out there, I have a bat. Just leave me alone. Now, I'm almost to my neighborhood. Up ahead, I can see the lights from the houses through the trees. But that's when I can also see it. So big, at first I think it's one of the trees, 12 feet tall. But it has no limbs, no branches. Just an extra large silhouette there in the darkness. Then it moves, scaring the living hell out of me. Now, I know you're not supposed to run from a predator, but I ran as hard and as fast as I could on a 45-degree angle to the right towards the lights of the closest house I could see through those trees. Once I cleared the tree line, I jumped the fence into this yard. You know those tall wooden fences, the kind you can't see through to the other side? Well, I jumped and landed into a rose bush. And I'm telling you, I was so afraid I didn't even realize I was bleeding until I got home. But that's not it. Watch this. As I'm there in a stranger's yard, climbing out of the bushes, from the other side of the fence, you can hear this sinister laughter. Like it thought me running, jumping that fence, and falling into those bushes was funny. And I'm not trying to be rude, but we had quite a few autistic kids at our school. So I know that goofy, artistic laughing sound. Well, it sounded like a 12-foot tall, retarded gorilla was laughing at me. But now remember, my home is still a war zone because of my behavior. So when I come running into the house, my dad basically ignores me. I'm scared out of my freaking mind. And all he asked me was how was practice, literally not even looking in my direction. It was his girlfriend who noticed that I was cut and bleeding and sweating like a Chinese factory worker and started to ask me questions. Then later the next day, it was her who warned me about cutting through those woods because she grew up in the area. She explained to me that the same type of thing would happen to her and her friends when they were kids. They called it the walking woods because if you walked through there, it seemed like something was following you.